The first light of a distant sun touched the surface of Zithra, casting a pale, almost ethereal glow over the planet's crystalline cities. For centuries, this world had been known across the stars as a beacon of unyielding civilization. Its inhabitants were formidable, not merely in strength or technology, but in spirit. They never bent, never submitted, and never allowed fear to dictate their choices. Their entire existence was a testament to resilience. Far beyond the outer reaches of Zithra, a conquering empire plotted its expansion. Its fleet was a leviathan of metal and fire, stretching across the void like a river of destruction. Commanders of this empire believed no species could stand against their might. To them, resistance was an illusion, a quaint notion from the naive corners of the galaxy. Yet, Zithra, untouched by their greed, became the ultimate challenge, the final jewel they sought to claim. Within Zithra's council chambers, silence dominated the assembly. Scholars, generals, and leaders convened not out of panic, but with calm calculation. Every mind present knew that brute force alone could not define the outcome. They turned to their ancient technologies, artifacts of knowledge and power refined over millennia. Energy shields capable of bending the very atmosphere, weapons that could harness plasma storms, and telepathic communication systems that united the minds of their people, all were prepared. But the greatest weapon of all was intangible, the unshakable unity and will of the Zithrans themselves. As the alien fleet entered orbit, the skies ignited with unprecedented brilliance. Zithra's defenders activated shields that absorbed, deflected, and neutralized every strike. The invaders, accustomed to quick victories, faltered. The more they attacked, the more apparent it became, this was no ordinary species. Strength alone could not break them, cohesion, intelligence, and sheer determination formed a force beyond technology. The conflict escalated. Alien ships attempted to destabilize the planet's core, using devices designed to fracture worlds, yet Zithra's scientists countered each attack with precision and foresight. Every citizen, every soldier, every mind played a role in a synchronized defense. Failures only strengthened their resolve, turning the assault into a lesson for the intruders. A species that refuses to bow cannot be conquered through fear or might. In the midst of the battle, the alien commander realized the unimaginable. Here was a civilization that did not fight merely to survive, they fought for principles, for identity, for freedom itself. Each failed maneuver against Zithra's unity hammered this truth home. No coercion, no intimidation, no overwhelming power could bend their will. Finally, the alien fleet withdrew, defeated not by casualties or broken defenses, but by the sheer, unbreakable spirit of Zithra. Victory was theirs, but it was tempered with wisdom. They did not destroy, they did not retaliate. Their message to the galaxy was clear: a civilization that never bows is more than strong, it is immortal in its legacy. News of Zithra's triumph rippled across the stars. Planets, colonies, and empires that once underestimated the concept of resilience now understood it. True power lies not in domination, but in unyielding courage, unity, and the unwavering refusal to surrender. Across light years and generations, the story of the species that would not bow became a legend, a symbol of hope and inspiration for all who would one day face the impossible. Even after the alien fleet withdrew, Zithra did not lower its defenses. The council knew that retreat was temporary. Empires that coveted conquest rarely accepted failure gracefully. From the cities carved into crystal spires to the hidden underground networks, Zithrans began preparations for what they knew could be an even greater assault. Their civilization was not only surviving, they were evolving, refining strategies that combined technology, intuition, and an almost instinctive understanding of human, or rather, sentient, behavior across the cosmos. High above the planet, in the orbiting citadel known as the Ether Bastion, the leading minds of Zithra gathered. Maps of star systems glowed with subtle light, displaying fleets, colonies, and potential allies. Their intelligence reports indicated that the alien empire's failure was causing ripples across neighboring sectors. Some systems hesitated in loyalty, others whispered of rebellion. Zithra realized that their victory, though defensive, had the potential to reshape galactic politics. Meanwhile, scouts reported unusual activity near a dark nebula on the outskirts of Zithran space. The alien forces, learning from their previous failures, were attempting stealth operations, probing weaknesses, mapping Zithra's advanced shield arrays, and testing the limits of their knowledge. In response, Zithra deployed the Star Sentinels, a specialized fleet trained in both warfare and psychological deterrence. These ships, elegant yet lethal, used light, shadow, and energy to project the impression of omnipresence. Enemies who approached felt as if the planet itself was watching, anticipating every move. On the surface, civilians were not idle. Every citizen, from scholars to engineers to young cadets, participated in a grand program of preparation. Knowledge was shared openly: survival strategies, planetary defense protocols, and even philosophical teachings about courage and unity. Children learned the history of their ancestors' victories, and artists captured the essence of Zithra's indomitable spirit in murals that adorned every public space. The message was clear: this was not a species defined by fear, but by purpose. Days turned into weeks. Tensions in the galaxy rose as the alien empire reorganized. Secret emissaries attempted to negotiate terms, offering false peace in exchange for surrender. Zithra's council met these offers with measured calm. They replied not with threats, but with transparency. They would defend their world, their principles, and their people at all costs. Every message, every action, reinforced a single idea across the stars: this species would not bow. Then, without warning, the alien empire launched its next offensive. Unlike the previous attack, this one was not a simple fleet maneuver. Entire planets in nearby systems were destabilized to divert attention. An elite strike forces approached Zithra using stealth fields capable of masking entire squadrons. Yet the Zithrans were ready. Sensors detected subtle distortions in spacetime, patterns invisible to ordinary observers. The Star Sentinels intercepted the invaders before they even reached the upper atmosphere. Battles erupted not with brute force alone but with precision strikes that neutralized the enemy without unnecessary destruction. Amid the chaos, the alien commander realized that Zithra's strength was more than technology. It was the shared consciousness of its people, the instant and intuitive understanding between soldier and strategist, citizen and leader. Every maneuver was countered. Every tactic anticipated. The aliens' conventional wisdom crumbled. They had faced advanced species before, but never one whose unity was itself a weapon. At the height of the battle, a sudden celestial phenomenon occurred: a comet passing unusually close to the planet, interacting with Zithra's shield arrays in ways previously untested. Some feared disaster, yet the Zithrans seized the moment. They recalibrated their systems, amplifying the comet's energy into a defensive pulse that struck the invading fleet with blinding precision. Ships were disabled, communications scrambled, and the enemy was forced into chaotic retreat. In the aftermath, Zithra did not celebrate with arrogance. Instead, they studied every detail of the encounter, learning and preparing further. The galaxy began to take notice. Word spread that a planet had not only survived the might of a conqueror but had done so repeatedly, without bowing, without compromise. Tales of courage, unity, and calculated brilliance echoed across star systems, and yet, deep within the alien empire, whispers of fear began to grow. The commanders and scientists debated endlessly: how could a single species, outnumbered, outgunned, yet unwavering, defeat them repeatedly? How could willpower and cohesion become weapons more powerful than fleets, more destructive than their most advanced technology? The questions lingered unanswered, as Zithra quietly prepared for whatever would come next, knowing that victory was not final, but that their resolve was eternal. Months had passed since the second assault, yet Zithra remained vigilant. The planet's citizens had grown even more disciplined, their unity a living force that radiated across the cities, the skies, and even the underground networks where secret defense operations were coordinated. But beyond their atmosphere, the galaxy was stirring. Neighboring star systems, previously indifferent or subservient to the alien empire, now whispered rumors of Zithra's unyielding spirit. Some dared to question the empire openly, while others covertly prepared to shift allegiance. Within the alien empire, frustration had turned into paranoia. Commanders demanded answers, scientists argued over strategy, diplomats were ignored. The realization sank in: sheer firepower was insufficient against a species whose strength lay not in ships or weapons but in cohesion, intellect, and will. The empire's leaders resolved to adapt. They would study, infiltrate, and ultimately attempt to corrupt the very essence of Zithra's society. A small alien contingent, cloaked in advanced stealth technology, slipped past Zithra's outer defenses. Their objective was not to attack but to observe, to identify weaknesses, and to plant seeds of dissent. They infiltrated the edges of human society, observing schools, markets, research labs, and even ceremonial halls where Zithrans commemorated their ancestors' victories. Yet, time and again, they found themselves confronted not by naivety but by awareness. The Zithrans had anticipated infiltration. Every citizen, every child, every soldier was trained in vigilance, in discernment, in the quiet art of detecting subtle irregularities. The alien operatives realized too late that they were not merely facing technology, they were facing a collective consciousness that responded faster than any computer could. Their presence was noted, their actions catalogued, and their plans subtly foiled without a single overt confrontation. One by one, they were neutralized or persuaded to abandon their mission. By the time the alien empire received reports, their elite agents were either gone or turned against them, convinced that Zithra's strength was not only admirable but inevitable. Back on the surface, Zithra's council convened. They did not see victory as the end goal, they saw it as preparation. The planet's scientists had begun experiments with deeper applications of energy manipulation, drawing on the very magnetic and gravitational fields of the planet itself. Engineers tested quantum-based defenses, integrating them seamlessly with traditional shield systems. Strategists developed models predicting every conceivable move of the alien empire, based not just on history or intelligence but on probability matrices that included morality, loyalty, and instinct, the human element. Then came the diplomatic overture. The alien empire, frustrated by repeated failure, attempted a different approach: negotiation. Envoys arrived in orbit, broadcasting messages of cooperation and mutual benefit. They promised trade, protection, and shared knowledge if Zithra submitted to their rule. The council listened, as they always did, not with fear but with measured patience. Their response was deliberate: transparency and defiance. They offered proof of Zithra's strength through demonstrations of shield capacity, fleet coordination, and planetary resilience, but refused to compromise their independence or their principles. The galaxy watched as Zithra refused the empire not with weapons alone, but with conviction. Every demonstration of power was paired with an unspoken message: this species would not bow. The surrounding systems began to re-evaluate their loyalties. Fear of the alien empire mingled with admiration for Zithra. Quiet rebellions sparked, alliances shifted, and for the first time in centuries, the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy trembled. Yet, the threat was far from over. The alien empire, though frustrated and humbled, was not defeated. They retreated to reassess, to adapt, and to plan a campaign of unprecedented scale. But Zithra, united, prepared for the storm that would inevitably return. Their people were no longer just survivors, they were exemplars of resilience, embodiments of the idea that a species, by refusing to submit, could rewrite the rules of engagement in a galaxy governed by power and fear. And as the twin suns of Zithra set behind its crystalline horizon, the citizens of the planet gazed upward with quiet determination. They knew the next battle was coming, larger, more dangerous, more calculated, but they also knew this: a species that refuses to bow cannot be conquered, only challenged, and even the most formidable challenge would bend to their unity before the day was done. The alien empire's new strategy was ruthless and calculated. They amassed fleets not just in size, but in diversity, ships designed for infiltration, bombardment, and psychological warfare. Entire armadas converged on Zithra's sector, each vessel a fortress bristling with weapons designed to overwhelm. Yet, even as the alien forces approached, the Zithrans remained unshaken. Their planet had endured assaults before, but now they faced an enemy that had learned, adapted, and intended to crush them with precision. Zithra's council convened in the Grand Spire, a crystalline tower that pierced the clouds like a dagger of light. Here, leaders debated not just tactics, but philosophy. They understood the stakes. The alien empire was not merely a threat to the planet, but a threat to the principle that a species could stand unbowed in the face of overwhelming odds. Every decision weighed heavily, every strategy layered with contingencies. Yet, amidst the tension, there was a singular clarity: resilience was their weapon, and unity their shield. As the first wave of attack began, the skies of Zithra lit with the brilliance of advanced energy shields and defensive satellites. Alien bombardment struck with devastating force, yet each assault was met with pre-calculated countermeasures. Energy pulses redirected projectiles, gravitational fields warped the trajectories of missiles, and plasma arrays neutralized incoming fire with surgical precision. Civilians were sheltered, yet they were not passive observers. Every citizen participated in real-time data collection, feeding information into Zithra's neural networks that anticipated every possible attack scenario. The alien commanders, confident in their supremacy, were confounded. Their ships, built to destroy entire worlds, were systematically disabled by a civilization they had dismissed as primitive. Every tactic, every stratagem, was countered by foresight and innovation. But Zithra did not rely solely on defense. Strategic strikes targeted the supply chains and coordination hubs of the alien fleets, ensuring that the enemy would falter long before reaching critical orbit. Amid the chaos, Zithra's pilots executed maneuvers that were both breathtaking and precise. Winged vessels streaked across the skies, creating formations that maximized defensive coverage while delivering calculated offensive strikes. Energy beams lanced across the void, cutting through cloaked ships and revealing hidden threats. It was not a war of numbers, it was a war of skill, coordination, and unbreakable will. Yet, the battle was not only physical. The alien empire attempted psychological warfare, broadcasting messages that sowed doubt, fear, and division. They showcased visions of destruction, claiming that resistance was futile. But Zithra's leaders had anticipated this. Public broadcasts reinforced unity, shared victories, and highlighted acts of courage across the planet. Citizens responded not with fear, but with resolve. Fear, they realized, could not exist where purpose was absolute. The climax of the battle came when the alien fleet deployed a weapon capable of destabilizing planetary cores. A massive energy surge threatened to rip Zithra apart. But the Zithran engineers, working in perfect synchrony with the planetary shields, absorbed the energy into an artificial vortex that expelled it harmlessly into space. The maneuver required split-second timing, trust in one another, and an understanding of physics that bordered on genius. When the vortex collapsed, the alien fleet was caught in its wake, losing ships and coordination in a cascading failure. In the aftermath, Zithra's skies were calm. Yet the citizens knew this victory was a milestone, not an endpoint. The alien empire had been humiliated, yet it was still vast and adaptable. But for the first time in generations, the galaxy truly saw the might of a species that would not bow. Stories spread of their bravery, their precision, and their unyielding will. Allies emerged, inspired by the Zithran example, while enemies reconsidered their ambitions, even as the twin suns set over crystalline spires, painting the world in gold and violet. The council gathered once more. They spoke not of glory, but of preparation. The next encounter was inevitable. Yet they also understood something profound: a species that refuses to bow changes the very definition of power. Across the cosmos, the legend of Zithra grew, not merely as a survivor, but as a civilization whose courage reshaped the balance of the galaxy itself. The galaxy had begun to take notice. Zithra was no longer just a planet, it was a symbol. Star systems whispered of its resilience, fleets diverted their courses to avoid its defenses, and diplomats from distant empires studied its strategies with awe and fear. Yet the alien empire, humiliated but unbroken, was far from finished. They had begun to forge alliances with other aggressive civilizations, consolidating resources for a campaign that would eclipse anything Zithra had yet faced. On Zithra, the Council foresaw the growing threat. They understood that survival now depended not only on defense but on the ability to inspire and unite others across the stars. Envoys were sent to neighboring systems, demonstrating the planet's strength and offering cooperation, not subjugation. Slowly, coalitions began to form. Worlds long oppressed by the alien empire now had hope, and hope proved to be a weapon more powerful than fleets of warships. Back in orbit, Zithra's fleets prepared for the inevitable. Ships of various classes moved in perfect harmony, formations calculated with precision only possible through the integration of advanced AI and the telepathic link among Zithran commanders. Every maneuver, every patrol, every energy modulation was preemptive, a demonstration of the species' unbreakable coordination. The first engagement of this final campaign came in the void near the Lyran Rift, a region of dense cosmic energy that amplified both shields and weapons. The alien coalition struck with ferocity, using massive capital ships and stealth squadrons to test Zithra's defenses. Yet the Zithrans had anticipated not only physical attacks but deception, sabotage, and psychological manipulation. Energy barriers pulsed in synchronized patterns, scattering incoming fire while feeding intelligence into centralized command. Amid the chaos, individual acts of heroism stood out. Pilots coordinated attacks across light years. Civilians provided real-time data that guided tactical decisions, and scientists executed emergency calibrations that turned near failure into strategic advantage. Every act, no matter how small, contributed to the larger orchestration of survival and resistance. The alien empire, increasingly desperate, unleashed a weapon designed to fracture planetary shields on a molecular level. For the first time, Zithra's defenses faltered under the unprecedented energy surge. Yet, in the midst of potential disaster, a brilliant solution emerged. By channeling energy through the planet's natural magnetic fields, the Zithrans transformed the assault into a defensive lattice, not only neutralizing the weapon but amplifying its power outward. The effect was catastrophic for the enemy. Ships were disabled, fleets scattered, and command signals lost in the void. Victory was partial but decisive. The alien coalition had been humiliated again, its forces weakened, and its morale shattered. Meanwhile, Zithra had proven that unity and intelligence were more potent than sheer force. Across the galaxy, worlds took notice. Allies rallied, and previously neutral civilizations began to offer support, resources, and intelligence. The balance of power was shifting, and the alien empire realized that domination over Zithra was no longer possible. Yet, the Council knew this was not the end. Battles could be won, fleets could retreat. But a species' legacy was built over generations. Zithra would remain vigilant, continuing to train, innovate, and prepare for whatever threats the galaxy might send. They understood that the true victory was not in defeating an enemy but in demonstrating that a species, no matter the odds, could remain unbowed, inspiring countless others across the stars. As the twin suns rose again over crystalline spires and glittering seas, Zithrans looked to the horizon with quiet confidence. The war was not yet over, but the message was clear: no force in the galaxy could bend their will, and no empire could erase the legend of the species that would not bow. The galaxy was tense, holding its breath. Word of Zithra's defiance had spread like wildfire, and even the most powerful empires now recognized the unyielding force that had repelled the alien coalition again and again. But the alien empire, cornered and desperate, launched one final, all-out offensive. Entire fleets converged on Zithra, weapons primed to annihilate cities, and stealth squads prepared to sabotage its defenses from within. This was a war not just for conquest, but for survival, an attempt to erase the legend before it could inspire others. Zithra did not flinch. The Council had foreseen this moment, and every citizen, pilot, scientist, and soldier was prepared. The planet's energy grids pulsed with power. Fleets positioned in flawless formations, and defensive satellites ready to absorb, redirect, and amplify every incoming strike. The planet itself seemed alive with anticipation, as though Zithra itself understood the stakes. The battle erupted across orbit and atmosphere. Alien warships fired in synchronized volleys, attempting to overwhelm the planetary shields. Massive explosions illuminated the skies, and the void of space blazed with energy. Yet every assault was met with countermeasures that were not only technological but strategic. Every Zithran move was calculated with foresight, anticipating enemy maneuvers before they could even be executed. Amid the chaos, moments of heroism became legendary. Pilots dove into the heart of enemy squadrons, drawing fire to protect civilian evacuation routes. Scientists diverted energy from non-essential systems to reinforce shields at critical points. Citizens on the surface coordinated planetary defense arrays through neural links, ensuring no strike went unanswered. Each individual act combined into a seamless orchestration of resilience. Finally, the alien empire unleashed its ultimate weapon, a gravity destabilizer capable of tearing entire continents from the planet's crust. For a moment, all seemed lost. Cities trembled, and energy readings spiked beyond known limits. Yet, in an unprecedented move, the Zithran Council activated a planetary harmonizer. Channeling the destabilizing force into a controlled resonance with the planet's own magnetic field. The energy that should have destroyed Zithra instead became a shield of unimaginable strength. The alien fleet, caught off guard, was struck by the redirected power, scattering ships and leaving command vessels crippled. The final blow was decisive. The alien empire, for the first time, experienced not defeat at the hands of an equal, but humiliation at the hands of a species that refused to bow. Their forces retreated, fractured and demoralized, leaving Zithra victorious once more. Yet the planet did not celebrate with prideful arrogance. Instead, it mourned the lives lost, honored the bravery displayed, and prepared for the future. The Council knew that true victory was not the destruction of an enemy, but the preservation of their principles and people. Across the galaxy, the legend of Zithra solidified. Worlds long oppressed began to rise, inspired by the courage and unity of the planet that would not bow. Scholars, diplomats, and leaders studied Zithra's methods, seeking to understand how a species so resolute could stand against overwhelming power. The story spread as both inspiration and warning. Unity, intelligence, and unyielding spirit were weapons stronger than fleets, armies, or empires. As the twin suns set over the crystalline spires, casting golden light across the planet, the Zithrans looked to the stars with quiet assurance. They had faced annihilation, withstood the impossible, and emerged unbroken. The species that would not bow had survived, had inspired, and had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of strength. Their legacy was eternal, not because of victory alone, but because they proved that a species could remain unbowed in the face of anything. And in that silence, the universe knew, some lights cannot be extinguished, some wills cannot be broken, and some species will forever stand unbowed.